Welcome everyone to Soul Evolution Rebirth. This is the final month in our class series of 6 months. We've covered all the ground, moving from the qualities, and I would say the qualities of identity, shadow, ego, whatever you want to call it. I know the blocks to love, right? We're talking about guilt, shame, fear, power dynamics, right? These are like stones that we put in front of the essential truth of who we are, in front of the soul. I think of this Pluto and Capricorn too. It's like we're pushing up against the mountain, the literal mountain that is in front of the soul, the true knowing of ourselves, right? And Pluto is moving into Aquarius, right, which is the future, the unknown, Uranus, the liberation that we then, we went into, the liberation, right, and the empowerment, the polarity point, the opposite point of all those blocks, right? The polarity of guilt, the polarity of shame, the polarity of fear, really the polarity of power dynamics, right? I almost see that each one of those points, each one of those blocks to love is pointing back to the same thing, the polarity of guilt, freedom from guilt, right, is innocence. The polarity of shame is self-trust. The polarity of, oh man, where'd my brain go? Guilt, shame, fear, love. Oh my God. The polarity of fear, love, or peace, you could say. Even if love wasn't accessible, peace is the opposite of fear. The polarity of power dynamics is empowerment, right? We know we are in our center. We know ourselves. We know the truth of who we are. We act from that place, right? We act from peace. We act from innocence. We act from self-trust, self-presence. Sovereignty would be the other word of that, the flip side of that shame, I guess. That's what it feels like, right? And these are all archetypally, right? I'm pointing to the polarity of Virgo, guilt, Pisces, right? When I'm pointing to the polarities of any of the polarity of the shame, right? Taurus, embodiment. The polarity of, the power dynamics, the disempowerment, empowerment. And empowerment is vulnerable. Empowerment, actually, it reminds me of this story, like from the Bible, of David and Goliath. And Goliath was like this big giant, right? We could think of Pluto and Capricorn as Goliath, right? And everyone thought, like, we have to find some big, person to fight Goliath. And David, this humble and little man relative to this giant, had the courage, right? That's also an Aries thing, but he had the courage, the vulnerability. And it was this tiny little thing that took it down, right? It's our vulnerability that dismantles the power of someone on the outside of us, right? It's our knowing and claiming our tenderness. It's our liberation from the patterns of cycles of shame, right? It's our empowerment and embodiment, trusting ourselves. It's our claiming our true innocence. That, that is really the essential truth of Virgo, the purity, the pure innocence, the innocence of a baby, of a child, the innocence of a devoted, humble servant of God, right? And at the same time, it's also embodied and claimed within the compassion, the infinite love, unconditional love of Pisces. We're working with Saturn in Pisces now, Mercury in Pisces, Sun in Pisces, and Neptune in Pisces right now. So there's tons of energy, right, in that purification process of our guilt, where we can relinquish guilt, we can relinquish shame, we can relinquish fear, right? When our mind is in a state of fear, anxiety, worry, when we're free from that, we enter into a state of peace, settling, stillness. All of these are qualities of the elements that we've been working with, of liberation, empowerment, and now rebirth. And, rebirth is not a static thing in terms of, it's not a moment in time where it's like I'm reborn, although we can have those moments many times throughout our lifetime. We are evolutionary creatures designed to evolve, souls designed to move the blocks to the awareness of the presence of love in us and around us through the action of evolution, through the action of rebirth, through the action of empowerment, through the action of liberation. And sometimes these things are a sudden quickening of the conditions of our life, pressurizing, forcing us, pushing us to change, especially as we're relating to all of this karma and these dynamics in the fixed signs, and the cardinal signs. The fixed signs, especially, like, these are the slow to change, right? This is the intense fixed signs. What I'm referring to them are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. These are the markers of the deepest part of the season, right? So if we're thinking about things from a perspective, the cardinal axis initiates life. This is Capricorn, father, Cancer, mother. Those two seeds come together, create life. This is masculine, feminine. Those two seeds come together, create life. All life is initiated in the cardinal axis. All life is sustained in the fixed axis. All life is changed, all seasons, all reasons, all feelings, all energies are changed in the mutable axis. We need all of it, right, to encompass the whole of a birth chart. These four quadrants, the four quadrants of the cardinal, the four quadrants of the mutable, the four quadrants of the fixed, they make up the whole, the entirety of the chart, of the present moment, of your birth chart, all of it. That's why we can't say, I am this, I'm a Pisces sun, I'm an Aquarius, I'm a this, I'm a that. You're not a that, you're the whole, you're the all. We are all the all. We are all a expression of the divine all. That your birth chart contains the all in it. That's how an astrologer can look and see the all of the soul, the all of the lifetime, all of the karmic dynamics. The all is present. And the rebirth of the soul is an ongoing reflection of the evolutionary journey that we're all on. So we can't not make it through this lifetime without rebirth, right? You can look back and see, man, I used to, it's so funny. I used to have blonde hair. My hair was dyed blonde, and I used to go to the tanning salon, and I used to get my nails done, right? I used to have a real big sense of identity around, I don't know, looking good. It's not as though I don't have a sense of identity around looking good, but it's like one point in my life, I realized like I was doing all these things and I didn't even feel beautiful. I didn't feel, I was like looking at a picture of myself pre 3 babies now, but like this was pre even 1. I had this flat stomach, no C-section scar, no wrinkles, no, my dyed blonde hair and my manicured fingernails. And inside, I did not see myself as beautiful. I did not see myself as lovable or worthy or good enough, right? And of course, there's still fragments of that, lingering aspects of that in my being. When we are even reborn in a new state, in a new way, and when we shed parts of our identity, it doesn't all come off unless we're really awakened. Like we reach a state of awakening and we can let all these things go, all the forms of identification. But, I made a decision at that point in my life to stop dyeing my hair, to let my natural hair grow out, to stop doing my fingernails, and stop going to the tanning salon. And over time, I came into contact with like how beautiful my hair color was naturally, that which was just natural inside of me. And my fingernails would, grow out naturally. And it was a big shedding of a piece of identity for me to let go of something that I thought was so necessary to creating beauty. Letting go of like the scented products and letting go of the curling irons. It's funny, it's like I let go of like curling and straightening and doing all these things to my hair, and my hair does whatever it does. I just wash it, and I rarely use anything more than Dr. Bronner's and oil on my face. Nothing like scented or expensive or complicated, and sometimes a little bit of makeup to still like, I'm still identified with the wrinkles and the bags under my eyes, the tiredness of my being. But anyway, the point is there is a shedding. And then that evolutionary stage that, came out of several dark nights of the soul experiences in my lifetime thus far. And each one came with a shedding of an identity, whether it was a career that I was identified with, like being a banker and then being a financial advisor, that shedding, whether it was a relationship I was identified with, shedding my marriage, that was a shedding. There was a rebirth of a woman. The woman I was before each child, dead, gone, the reborn woman, someone else, someone I hadn't known before that moment. And with each one comes a process of rebirth, right? There is a going in, and that's part of what we've been working with. We went down into the underworld. And it's not done just because this course is done. And that's probably obvious to all of you at some level, because we're not even at Pluto and Aquarius. the next 6 months, I'm going to focus on the other side of this, which is how do we, you know, if we're working on dismantling the blocks to love, we're moving the guilt and the shame and the fear and the power dynamics out of the way so that we can see others, so that we can see ourselves, so that we can love and we can be loved. How do we heal that essential cardinal cross? Mother, father, masculine, feminine. And I can only speak to it in this body, in this lifetime, from the perspective of the feminine. I can only speak to the journey of healing the feminine heart from the perspective of being that, from journeying in that way, right? Everything that we're doing in this rebirth process is leading us in this dynamic way to then once the blocks are there, what are we going to do, right? If we remove the blocks to love, the things that ultimately on some level have protected us, right? Guilt, shame, fear, power issues, these would not be present if they didn't serve on have some value in our lives to have protected, right? The trauma, and after this class today, I'm teaching a class on Chiron, right? The wound isn't there without a deep reason, evolutionarily, emotionally, physically, financially, whatever it is that we're facing in our lives. The challenges, the blocks, the limitations that we are working through are present for the purpose of evolution. And for this, we can be grateful, right? We can find the gift, we can find the silver lining. And the healing of the heart, of course, is an aspect of liberation, of empowerment, of rebirth, and of our ultimate evolution. So it feels like the natural next steps, right? And then after that, who knows what's comes next, because I'm starting to sense that after the rebirth of the feminine heart, then there's the coming together. And I don't know, like, do we come together? Is that, I don't know yet. Or does it go back? Does it go back to the soul's journey of evolution? I asked my very core question about evolutionary dynamics on the EA message board yesterday, and I got an answer, which will probably take me the next 6 months to digest. And whenever we get an answer, of course, then we have to live into how the answer evolves us, but the core question is like, you have two souls that come together in this lifetime, and they have karmic dynamics. And these two souls, I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. Parents and children are two souls that come together, right? Whether it's your children or your parents, right? You have karmic dynamics. And the question was, if one soul is desiring to evolve and the other soul is unwilling, unable, not wanting to do the work to evolve, can the desire of the one soul evolve the dynamics relative to the two souls? And I don't know if the answer that I got is the right answer, or is the truth for me, or I feel like even just living the question of that, continuing to look at the evolutionary journey. But all of this, I know that from the perspective of the one soul, from your natal chart, your soul, even if the other person is not willing to do their work relative, there are parents and children who are estranged. There are family members who we're not able to resolve things with. There are marriages where the the husband does not want to evolve. A lot of what I've been working with, especially lately, has been women relative to where, one person and the other person, where they're not at the same evolutionary stage. And we can know that we're not all operating from the same evolutionary stage of consciousness. We are not all willing, able, and available to do the work. So then can we evolve the karmic dynamic, or will we come back again, lifetime after lifetime, playing things out? Will we, find each other maybe? Or I think this is also possible, where if we leave a relationship and we're not willing to do the work that would evolve that dynamic, we just attract more, whether it's more men or more circumstances or more situations or more work environments where that same dynamic, shows up in our field, right? And wherever you go, there you are, right? So then there's some core essential responsibility we have to take of our own birth chart and our own karmic dynamics, and to be able to face what we can in this lifetime and heal what we can in this lifetime. And I do believe ultimately that forgiveness can happen regardless of whether the other person is present to the process. I do believe that healing can happen and resolution can happen whether we're actively working to resolve externally, but actually more powerfully internally. Everywhere we meet that thought, whether it's the thought of rejection, abandonment, betrayal, whether it's the fear, whether it's the guilt, whether it's the shame that we meet within ourselves, we can be reborn. We can become empowered. We can become liberated, and we can forgive in this lifetime, regardless of whether the soul dynamic with the other person is resolved in an external fashion, or in the relationship, or in the dynamic with that person. And that's the place, that's the seat of our true power, our true sovereignty. That's the gift of this soul journey, where we get to really work. And I think with this Pluto transit, of course, we're working in this month of March towards, towards this rebirthing, towards this birth into this new zero, fresh, right? But where the nodes are still, Pluto's squaring the nodes. That is still active. North node in Taurus, South node in Scorpio. What's the resolution node in this astrological time period? It is the South node, right? And we might want to grow something new. We might desire so much to be moving on to our new beginning and our greener pastures and our, new relationship, or new, new attitude. I'm a girl with a new attitude. And if we don't really deeply hold at the simultaneousness of needing to be continuously aware of when the past wants to come again, when the same dynamic wants to repeat itself, when the same feeling emerges within us, the same shame or the same guilt or the same fear, right? Might have a different face, might have a different, it's obviously a different moment. Every moment we're continuing on. We might miss the great opportunity for the actual new beginnings to begin in our life, for the actual new way of being, the new way of relating. And all evolution is a slow process, right? Pluto hasn't been in Aquarius for 248 years. 1777 right? The American Revolution, the French Revolution, the rebirth of the United States into a new and separate country with all these ideals that built, you know, what we are living in our life today, regardless of whether you live in the United States or not, right? Because we're in a global world. Humanity is humanity. We might have different perspectives relative to where we've lived and the historical context of where we're coming from. I don't want to deny, especially the French historical context of revolution. I'm, very aware that that has a deep impact, both here in the United States and abroad. There is a collective revolution underway. And it becomes so important in our own lives to recognize where our rebirth is calling us, relative to our desires, relative to those longings within our heart that are not going to go away, no matter how much we suppress them, push them, those pieces of unresolved emotion don't go away just because we're not feeling them or healing them. So of course, with Saturn in a new sign and Pluto in a new sign, there is a new opportunity for the very root of who we are to get untangled, for our lives to get a breath of fresh air and be pushed in a new direction. And where we haven't resolved and healed any part of the past, it's going to keep coming with us, right? So we have